The Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Well, if you didn't know it, we have a great new theater in downtown Las Vegas. It's called the Beverly Theater. And with me to talk about it, Beverly Rogers and Kip Kelly. How did this come about? We're down here in this incredible facility, Beverly. Just kind of opened within the last year, right?
Last few months.
2 months, yeah.
Yeah, just barely.
How did it come about?
A few years ago, I just started putting together some thoughts in my head along with some people I knew. And I had created relationships with some film people in New York and some people doing films here. And I thought about, believe it or not, how much Jim Rogers loved old films. We used to sponsor the Lone Pine Film Festival in Lone Pine, California, and we got to know a lot of old Western stars. And I love storytelling. We helped the Writer's Block bookstore next door expand, and we sort of put together a lot of writers, people who are telling stories in different ways, and we're involved in, when I say we, I'm talking about the Rogers Foundation, where we're involved in education, and particularly education and the arts, and trying to promote that. And I'm also involved with Black Mountain Institute at UNLV, which is very much about storytelling and writers. So just putting my film love and my storytelling love and writerly love together, I just thought, you know what? And let me add in one more thing. I read the New York Times, and I'm always reading about these films that never come here. Right. And if they do, they come for one day. And I was frustrated. So one day I said, I think I'll look into building a theater.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you go back, 10, 15 years ago in Las Vegas, and we had a lack of facilities for arts, music. Even the Smith Center, which serves a purpose, I guess, for music, which you are being similarly trying to do for other types of venues, or right?
Yeah, we're not intending to compete, right. But a different kind of cultural experience, if you will.
Right, but both were lacking in Las Vegas for the longest time. So the type of things that you are looking forward to doing in the theater, are independent films, smaller, focused, more intimate type of artsy things, with poets and authors and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I should say where we are, right? And we're down here on what is it, 6th Street?
6th and Bonneville.
6th and Bonneville, next to the Writers Guild. Which you have, some sort of relationship with, correct?
Absolutely. We own the building, and we
That's a good relationship.
Several excellent, yes, and we also own a piece of the business. So
right, okay.
We've kind of helped them expand, as I mentioned. They were originally on East Fremont. And then, once we started putting together the ideas of the theater and the art house film and all that could be done, I went back into my little email thing and found a person who had been on our PR team for the foundation a couple of years before the pandemic. And I wrote him a note and said, hey, Kip, remember that theater I told you I wanted to build? Would you like to come talk to me about it? And we met for a cup of coffee next door, and the rest is history, as they say.
Were you surprised about that, Kip?
I was.
Yeah.
The end of 2019, so she's referring to the time that she told me about a theater, it was the end of 2019, and I was on my way to start a fancy new casino job, and she said, I'm going to build a theater, make sure I have your contact information. I've been in this town long enough and in the entertainment business long enough to know what that may or may not mean, but I was like, all right, sure, we'll talk then. And then, obviously, 2020 happened. Which was not a great year for theaters. I don't know if you heard that or not.
We had none.
Yeah, we were down to zero, in fact. And she reached out to me at the end of that year and said, no, it's happening, and we want you to be a part of it. And so I was shocked and elated and all of those emotions at once. And it's a very important thing when Beverly Rogers and the Rogers Foundation reaches out to you. It carries a lot of weight. And so just the fact that they would think of me meant a lot, but also as we moved forward in the project, to be the one to shepherd this into the community became, it was bigger than me from the start, and it just became bigger and bigger than me as we went along. And so I'm very proud, but I'm mostly very grateful for the opportunity, because I think what we're doing here is something that, as you've mentioned and Beverly talked about, is what Las Vegas has deserved for a very long time, and we finally have one. And so I'm just happy that I get to show up to work here every single day.
But you have an important work to do here.
We do.
And it's filling this theater
yes.
with interesting things that are culturally going to, just be available for whether it's art, music, reading,
yes.
books. I mean, what are some of the things that you're creating here?
Beverly's vision was, and I kind of put it into words, but she talks about storytelling, and so we've kind of dubbed this a storytelling arena. Like we've kind of said this is a place for storytelling, and when she first approached me, my question was, is this an event venue? And she said, no. We want to make sure that there's something happening here 7 days a week. Will people rent us? Sure, but we don't want to be a venue for rent. We want to be a proactive partner in the community that are bringing things to Las Vegas. And so I took that and I muddled over it and said, what can this place be? How functional can it be? How flexible can it be? And we kind of created these three different pillars of live, lit, and film, and of course lit being short for literature. So our kind of three main programming pillars are independent film, which we have on the shelves 7 days a week.
And as you're talking about them, let's talk about the facility and how it works with the genre that you're referring to.
Sure. So we have a very flexible space, but our intent, our design intent from the very start was to make sure that we don't come up short in any one of those verticals. We want to make sure that our film experience is industry standard. We have a 55-foot screen. We have cinema masking, which is something that has gone by the wayside in most commercial exhibitor houses right now. It allows us to present the right aspect ratio that the director intended for film. We have our cinema sound is provided by Meyer, which it's not about loudness, it's about director's intent and clarity with that. And so we really have a state-of-the-art cinema sound system as well as our projector, which is a laser now, they call it, because that's how fancy they are. They're called lasers now, but we're ready to present any film in any digital format and even have room in the window for 35 millimeter or whatever if a director comes to town and really just says this is what we want to show. So we wanted to make sure that when people come for film, and there's a lot of film purists out there, that we have an industry standard experience for them. And we also double as a concert house and a live performance venue, and we do author readings and things like that. So the trick is, how do we take this space and make sure that we're being industry standard in all three of those verticals? And that was really important, because you can start to look like a movie theater that's doing a concert. You could start to look like a concert house that's trying to put on a film. And we didn't want that. We want this to be the place for a live concert aficionado, for a film bro purist, for an author or a book tour that's happening. And so what you see in the space when you walk in is purposeful flexibility. It's intentional. And we took great care in designing and making sure that if we're going to put on something here, that it meets the standard of the expectation of our guests when they walk in.
And it's a wonderfully beautiful facility, but the seats, I mean, 150?
146 seats. The capacity of the room is closer to 450. We have seats that retract. And so that was a thing that was very early on in the design. We want to do a lot of things in this space, in this room. Traditionally, you would go to a movie theater and the seats are all the way to the front row and they're bolted down. Correct. And unfortunately, the modern day exhibitor or art house needs to be more flexible than that. And you can't do a lot in a room like that. So we spent a lot of time designing this platform that rolls into the room and rolls out of the room with the most comfortable seats we can find in that zone to make sure that people are sitting there and feeling comfortable when they're watching a film, but also knowing that we've got to strike it and we've got to put it into a wall if ever we want to do something that's bigger. We also took away the first 6 rows of seating. Our first row starts in the center of the room. So we have really a prime viewing angle from any seat in the house. We know that nobody wants to sit in those first 6 or 7 rows, so we just said we won't have those seats. That's not something you would normally do. You usually want as many seats as you can. Mm-hmm. But again, when you talk about wanting to be flexible, putting an extra row, an extra 70 seats in there that you can't move or do anything with becomes a problem. So we have theatrical lighting throughout. We have a really state-of-the-art voice lift system from Constellation, which allows us to change the acoustics of the room and change the size of the room, the shape of the room. So it's really one of the most technologically advanced theaters of its kind in North America. And I say that knowing that the people who designed it would say that. And they have gone on the record of saying that. And it's not to show off. It's not for no reason. It's just we think that we have here an art house of the future, and what does that look like, and what do you have to do to make sure that you're set up for success and future-proof a room like this.
And you have a patio upstairs,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, Segway, which is a really cool jazz terrace. Beverly wants a place that people will just show up to. And traditionally, if you went to a movie theater and you didn't have a ticket, well, okay, see you next time, I guess.
Right.
You go in the casino.
You go to, guess we'll go gamble. And nothing wrong with that, but if people come to our door and they don't have a ticket yet, well, maybe you'll get one, or maybe just go upstairs to Segway, which is a really cool jazz terrace. We have jazz out there on the weekends, comfortable seating, lounge style. We have a wine and coffee bar up there. So I've dubbed it kind of a soft hang, meaning we don't charge a cover or tickets there. If you show up, you've got a place to hang out. And that's important. That's important when you talk about Beverly's vision for a place of, like, how do you create this cultural center, this portal, and this real community? Well, it's not by stopping everybody at the door and charging them. Yes, we need to charge people. But if you've made it here, the doors are open. Thank you for coming. Like, let's figure out some other way for you to hang out here.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ends that you and Beverly are anticipating is entirely different than typically what goes on in venues.
Right.
It's try to be profitable.
Yes.
You're trying to accomplish a different purpose.
Profit is good too, though.
Profit. And talking about that, yeah, I'm not going to dispute that.
We're a nonprofit theater, though.
Right. But look, I mean, there's a lot of background here, and I guess I should mention that you were married to Jim Rogers, who owned, and the two of you owned a TV station here, among other places, and many stations in other cities across, particularly the West. And during the time that Jim was alive, you and Jim were very, very charitable in many different areas of whether it be art, education, etc. And it's, and here you are just keeping it going your way. But where's this love of the arts come for you? I mean, it was something from childhood, or? Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not sure I can even answer that because it's just, I don't know if it's in your DNA or what. But I've always been a book nut in every sense of the word, from reading extensively and prolifically to I collect and research Victorian novels, and I've been invited to speak at different places, and I do some things. I taught a semester at UNLV. I do a lot in the bookish end of the world. And then, interestingly, the film thing happened because who doesn't like to sit down and watch a good movie? And I sort of while Jim was alive, I was interested in the aspects that he was interested in. And then after he was gone, I would sit and watch a movie and I looked for different things. And I started to want to get to know some of the people behind the scenes so that I could learn more, like I like to learn about authors and their behind the scenes lives and things that they do. I wanted to learn about some behind the scene things about film. So I met some people who introduced me to some people, and I'm now pretty well established and friends with a few different movie producers. And it's a very small world in their world, just like writers seem to know a lot of writers. Producers know producers to a big extent. And so it becomes, my world then sort of expands by that.
Yeah.
And then as far as the giving end of things, Jim's focus was clearly, if you have a little bit of money and you try to give this much to everybody, you're just diluting what you can do. Whereas if you just get a focus and stick with it, right, then you can do something. And his was education. Right. And I also felt, that was obviously the thing to do. So he actually started the idea for the foundation before he died and set up the kind of the broad outlines of what he wanted, and then we could be specific. But with that, we decided a good focus on the arts was important for education because obviously it is, and it's a large part ignored, and the first thing that's cut in school districts and that sort of thing. So from there, I think that's how the love of the arts just sort of expanded.
Right, you kind of married the two with education and art. And in that regard, you were very active in giving out foundation scholarships, right? And what is the criteria that you use to provide the scholarships? and these are good scholarships, by the way.
Oh, they're great scholarships.
Right? Is there a $100,000 scholarship to
that
at least
would be,
one person?
Like $25,000 a year for 4 years, and you just have to keep your grade up to get it. And then at the other end, $5,000 or whatever it arithmetic's out to.
20,000. Yeah.
But anyway, the criteria is pretty similar to what a lot of people do with scholarships, is we ask for obviously transcripts and grades and your activities and some family information and a little bit about your background and financial need, which plays a huge part in what we're doing. I mean, that is probably one of the biggest factors. And the other big factor is we ask them to write an essay, and we use different topics, and as does everyone around the country. I've checked to see what people do, and that will make a big difference. That really kind of hones in. And one thing that we do at the foundation that a lot of people with scholarships don't is that we interview the kids in person. So we have several people who read the applications and the essays, narrow it down, and then we'll interview 75 kids. It's a lot, and it's unbelievable and heartening and a beautiful experience. None of us walks away without crying.
And probably a lot of gratitude for
it's a
little
great
things
experience.
that we're all going through in life.
I walk away crying because I didn't get the scholarship, Ed. So.
But I'm sure you can qualify now.
Yes, actually might.
So how do you go about finding authors and films to fill the venue?
Well, the Writer's Block next door is we partner with them on the literature side of stuff. So Scott and Drew have done a great job developing events for authors as they come to town and network for that.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What exactly is the Writers Guild, and how do they interact with you?
Yeah, so it's the Writer's Block. They've been here since 2018 now, I think. This was kind of the first step in Beverly's vision for this corner, being the most creative corner in all of Southern Nevada. The Writer's Block was kind of the anchor tenant of the Lucy next door. And they've existed in Las Vegas for, 12 or 13 years now. But they sell books. They do a lot of great events with authors when they come to town. And so early on, it was just determined that we would have a literature program, but we would just expand what they were doing, give them the space to do bigger and not better, but just allow authors and their guests a better experience with the room we have, and also be able to sell more books and get more people in to hear these speakers speak or do a reading or whatever. We have different poetry events as well. So that's how we work in tandem with the writer's block to make sure that we have enough authors coming into town, or if they want to come to town, we give them the great experience here. On the film side, it's really about, trying to lift some of the independent films that we think have not gotten enough screen time in Las Vegas.
So do you reach out to others, or do they,
Well, early on, it's all, right now it's all us reaching out. But eventually, and it's starting to happen now because people are starting to hear about us. So
is there like a circuit of these independent films that kind of get released every year and travel around the country?
Well, yeah. So being an independent theater means two things. It means that we're showing independent films, but it also means that it's really on myself and my team to book everything. And we don't, we're not part of like a national booking circuit where, it's one guy talking to one guy who has 5,000 screens, and then they just make a deal and then they shove it out to everyone. We are really pounding the pavement and making deals with studios and different distributors and saying, hey, we want to bring this film to Vegas. They're all thrilled, by the way, because they've never had a place to play some of these films. So that's made it easy when you reach out. It's like, hey, we want, and they, by and large, they had kind of just written off Vegas as a place to put some of these films, and so early on, we're knocking on doors, but we're starting to get people reach out to us now and say, hey, we've got this film coming up. Would you guys be interested in it?
We also have some local people who are filmmakers or making films about, for example, there's a film being made about the history of KCEP that will come out about the time of their anniversary. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of other people in town who are either bringing things, or so we're starting to get more inquiries in that.
Yeah,
realm.
City of Las Vegas is doing a celebration this Saturday. Actually, they do every year, like Las Vegas, the early years. They produce a film, and they're gonna screen it here on Saturday for Las Vegas's birthday, which is the 15th. And
then one of the things I love we're doing actually tonight, is that we're showing Fargo, and Mr. Deakins, who's the cinematographer, has written another book, and he's selling the books ahead of time next door, and then he'll come over, we'll watch the film, he'll be introduced, and then we'll have a Q&A after. And that kind of feel and thing and friendliness and warmth and really extra interest in the film and the behind-the-scenes look that I always, that got me into this in the first place, is the kind of thing I was always hoping that I could present.
And getting information about upcoming events, website? Or?
TheBeverlyTheater.com. You can also just stop into the box office and we'll give you a download of what's happening. But there's a lot. What Beverly just talked about, is a perfect example of what we want to do here, which is eventize everything. We have to be very proactive and aggressive with our programming because traditional theaters were just sit back and wait and hope that whatever they send you works for the summer. But doing things like we're doing with Roger Deakins tonight, we can tie all three kind of our pillars together and create an event out of cinema again. And that's really important for us because we think that's what keeps us in the conversation, what keeps people excited about cinema.
I would be remiss if we didn't talk about this beautiful structure. It's obviously some really elaborate plans went into, and architectural drawings went into this. Did it come out the way you anticipated?
Absolutely, absolutely. The surprising thing is a lot of things I picked out one at a time,
right.
And then I would come and see it all put together. I was like, wow, that wasn't bad.
It worked. See, it's that art talent that you have somewhere deep
it's the architecture's talent, actually.
Yeah.
She was, her greatest skill was listening to me babble and about the kind of feel I wanted the theater to project, and the way I wanted it to be open and warm and welcoming, and she was able to build that and make it happen.
Yeah,
So.
I mean the outside is just spectacular looking as well. The materials, the walls, the floors, the car. I mean everything is just first class.
Thank you.
It's a work of art itself. It's a piece of art as an art house.
And I'll mention we're in the green room here, which is lovely, and it has its own restroom and it has a refrigerator and all the facilities. But the important thing to know is that in every space I have is named for one of my dogs. So this the name of this room is the Teddy.
You could see her photo outside. If you're ever lucky enough to be in the green room, you'll see her photo hanging outside of it.
How many dogs do you have?
Just one.
Just the one?
Just
okay.
one at a time right now. Yeah.
We're running out of spaces to name Ed, so we gotta keep her down to one.
And it's really, really ridiculously good looking.
Yes.
I have to say that. So you have some of these, expressions throughout the building.
I like Easter eggs. This one is from Zoolander, which is a classic quote of just a kind of a cult movie,
Right.
which is fun. And then the lobby has some really cool kitschy art on the shelves. We worked with a really great local designer here to put this room together and the shelves in the lobby as well. So personal touches throughout are really important. Little surprising delights here and there. Things like a quote, a framed picture of baby Beverly in the lobby when she was 6, 5, 6. I don't know, but. If you don't know Bev and she's not here, you're not going to know that. But
can we make sure we get that picture up on the screen?
It's the one thing you can't compete with a building like this. It's so nice, and it is a marvel. It's an architectural marvel, but it can feel a little cold at first because you don't have any history yet. And so everything we've done is including this room and the shelves out front, is to really warm it up and make people feel welcome.
Including the candy that you sell, which is very retro.
Yes. We have all of your favorite retro and vintage candy, but new. It's not to say that we ordered it and it's been on stock since 1960. It is the new version of it. But our candy wall is stacked. It's very Willy Wonka-esque. We have some great artwork that hangs in the lobby. We recreated some Vegas-related movies. We worked with local artists on that. So. The building itself is so nice, and we took all of the time to really make sure that it feels warm in here. And then with the content that we provide, I think is the end all be all in terms of the steps that we take to make it feel warm. What we do inside the theater and up at Segway needs to always feel warm and welcoming and not like cold get out. So.
And it does. I even mentioned to you when I was walking around the facility how it even smelled wonderful.
Yeah.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't say this. I want the whole world to know that one day I said to this man, take my dream and build it.
Yeah, well, the two of you have succeeded in doing this. So thank you so much, Kip Kelly and Beverly Rogers.
Thank you.
Thank you. And come down to this facility, Beverly Theater, 6 in Bonneville.